Hello everyone, I'm your host Pensyfan19 and welcome to the January 2022 Pensyfan Periodical. This is the monthly news series which covers most of the major railroading headlines from around the world, as well as my opinions on them. We have a lot of articles to go over today, so with that in mind, let's get rolling. First off, it's been a good month for Amtrak with more discussions of route restorations in their Connects Us map, and making a brief appearance during his hiatus once again, my good friend, Captain Echo. Over to you.
Hello all, Captain Echo here. Well, January has been a good month for Amtrak. Not only have multiple new routes and trains been announced, such as the Atlanta to East Texas, New York City to Pittsfield, return to the New River Valley, and proposed Indiana Rail Bill, but one that stood out to me was PennDOT's approval to run passenger trains from New York all the way to Scranton, Pennsylvania. Now this is very interesting because this isn't a straight shot route. However, nonetheless, it is an amazing idea as it will bring much needed revenue and jobs to the Pocono region, and it would be beneficial for people traveling to the region for the summertime. Well, that's all I have, Pensyfan. Back to you.
Thanks for stopping by for the help again, Captain. Speaking of long-discussed proposals getting new attention, New York Governor Kathy Hochul has released concept art of the Triboro line, formerly known as Triboro RX, which has an option for a bus lane on top of the existing freight tracks, commuter rail right next to the existing freight tracks, or light rail next to or on top of the existing tracks. I'm fine with any of the options mentioned here, as long as it's not a busway. On a similar topic, this renewed interest in rail transport has spread up north, as Alberta is seeking to revive passenger service from Calgary to Edmonton along the existing CP rail right-of-way, as well as introduce service to many more cities. And this interest in rail again also includes freight, as potatoes have been moved by rail in Maine for the first time in decades. Meanwhile, TrainSim World has added the Horseshoe Curve route along with the B&O Mountain Division. MBTA is opening the test track at Cabot-Yard. The Luxery Tramway has opened in Quatar. Indian Railways has renamed the position of guard to train manager. A new study has shown that people who are obsessed with celebrities are less intelligent. And the Santa Cruz Big Trees and Pacific is facing a possible route abandonment between Watsonville and Santa Cruz. In a bit of a step backwards when compared to the rail expansion mentioned earlier, the RTC wants the Big Trees and Pacific to abandon their freight connection to the rest of the American rail network, which would have detrimental effects to not only the railroad's business, but also to the town of Santa Cruz itself. The fate of this line is to be determined by an RTC vote on February 3rd, which is relatively close to when this video was uploaded, and the railroad has a dedicated webpage to save the beach train. Now, one of the reasons I heard for this was to bring about the newly proposed Coast Futura light rail, which will prioritize these small rail cars and render the lines in Santa Cruz for passenger only. But I don't see why they can't utilize a combination of passenger and freight on the same route, similar to how the San Diego and Imperial Valley operates freight service on the San Diego light rail trackage. But oddly enough, I can't seem to find any articles that directly mention what the replacement for this forced abandonment will be. Let me take a look. Hold on. They want to turn it into a trail? Give me that website. I'm signing it and promoting this cause to prevent it being rail trailed. Speaking of which, here is some interesting news. Parallel Systems has tested autonomous bogies to transport containers for future long-distance freight use, with Union Pacific being a potential customer despite much criticism of the technology from rail fans. Voslaw has released an absolutely adorable Chinese grinding machine, while the same country launched a 5G livestream studio on an HSD for streaming the Winter Olympics. A nuclear fuel escort caboose has finished testing. Reading 2102 is to be utilized for revenue freight runs on the Reading and Northern. The NYC subway is considering adding platform gates to increase safety. Montreal's REM is to utilize a former CN right-of-way. Stadler is to produce a record 504 trams for almost all of Europe. The boring tunnel in Las Vegas has experienced traffic, while French car ads now have disclaimers encouraging viewers not to drive. We need these disclaimers in the US. Please. Unused Talgo 8 sets intended for the Hiawatha service have been sold to the Lagos Metro in Nigeria. Trinity Railway Express has received newly repainted F40s. A CP Rail SD40 has been middle-engined between two snowplows. 2-9s ran on each end of only 5 grain cars. And Francis Bourgeois has been named the brand ambassador for GB Rail Freight, while starring in a commercial for North Face and Gucci. It's nice to see that Francis is bringing mass recognition to the rail industry, as more people are particularly interested in heritage railroads, and they hope this encourages more people around the world to study on old and new locomotive classes and see the benefits of rail transport, instead of considering them as old-fashioned. It also seems this interest in rail has some impact on the US, as Friends of the 261 has acquired the NRE Silva shops for restoration work on their collection. Please save some of the diesels there too. One of them is considered for an episode of Remarkable Engines. But alas, we have the sad news. DSB has delayed the release of their Talgo coaches. The Tarancon Quinza UTL main line could be set to close with bus replacements. The Missouri River Runner has been reduced to once-a-day service. And most devastating of all, Progress Rail has scrapped all 23 of their SD-80 Max, despite the efforts of the Conrail Historical Society. This leaves 6, or allegedly 2 of these engines left in existence under CP Rail ownership as parts units. Now here's a follow-up news section for articles covering stories from previous episodes. American battery-powered locomotives are gaining more sales as Union Pacific is the first railroad to purchase these battery locomotives, as they're ordering 10 flex drives and 10 units from EMD with what looks like a rebuilt SD60i. At the same time, a total of 3 Australian mining firms have acquired such battery-powered engines, with Rio Tinto purchasing a flex drive, BHP purchasing engines from both Wabtec and Progress Rail, or GE and EMD, and Fortescue Metals purchasing an EMD SD70 Cal unit, thus being the first of its kind since the SD60F in the late 1980s. Speaking of Cal units, CP Rail has released a Hydra Barn for service in Alberta, with this engine being a perfect candidate for Alpha Omega CP Rail since it's the lowest numbered engine on the railroad's current roster. Sierra Northern gensets have entered service and are soon to be repainted. ALC 42s are to enter service on the Empire Builder. Valley Metro Siemens S700 LRVs have entered service, along with the SZ Stadler Kiss CMU. UZ has released their overhauled Class EJ675s. The TMH TEM23 won a Good Design Award. More Roman artifacts have been unearthed thanks to HS2 construction. More Class 37s and 57s are for sale by Direct Rail Services. The Finger Lakes Railway could operate passenger service between Brunswick and Rockland in addition to freight. And Marta has released a winning design for their Stadler subways. Why do railroads have to choose the most bland of the 4 options most of the time when it comes to delivery votes like this? I suppose you could make the point of easier maintenance, but any one of the other 3 would have been created for the Class CQ400. This reminds me of the Coaster Charger livery where, once again, the simplest livery was chosen by the railroad, even though the people favored the most creative one. Up next is the station upgrades portion covering proposal, construction, and openings of stations around the world. First off, congratulations to Middletown, Pennsylvania and Central West End for opening, while work continues for Congress Heights, Stockport Interchange, Liverpool, Ellenbrook, Boca Raton, Rancho Cucamonga, California, and Columbus, Ohio. Hopefully this last one is a good sign of more passenger service returning to that city, which used to be a hub for passenger trains, by the way. In other news, Amtrak has placed an Operation Lifesaver locomotive into service. NJT is to sell their Comet 3 coaches. DSB is to refurbish their Bombardier twin decks. Southwestern Railway has extended their lease for the Class 707s. RegioJet has begun testing for their Pesa Elf and Stadler Kiss. Railpool is to order Siemens Vectrons, while DB Cargo is to order battery diesel hybrid Vectrons and Vossloh engines. CRRC SDA-1 Pandaroo locomotives are being delivered for SCT. Sudan Railways has revealed the SDD-1. RDC DE 2707 has been given a new livery. Mont 3 has made an appearance at the Big Amherst Railway Show, and EXO has placed an order for 10 Siemens Chargers to replace their EXCO Transit F59s. Based on the relatively simple paint schemes of most locomotives nowadays, I made this prediction as to what I think the EXO Chargers will look like. Oh, well then, I stand corrected. Nice to see that they'll be using the ALC 42 front, and although it isn't too clear, it looks like EXO will be utilizing the previous AMT livery for the Chargers. But again, this concept art may not be final, and could change before the production in 3 years. After all that, it is now time for this month's Meme of the Month. This month's Meme of the Month is the government bringing back Conrail. And now, the top story of the January 2022 Pensyfan Periodical is Bnsf to acquire Montana Rail Link. As part of their lease agreement being ended early by the short line, Montana Rail Link will be transferring their operations to Bnsf, as yet another Class 2 regional has been acquired by a larger Class 1. Of course, no one knows exactly how long this rail will operate for, as negotiations have to be worked out with Bnsf for unions, and of course this acquisition is subject to the STB, just like the recent acquisitions of Kansas City Southern and Pan Am Railways. Montana Rail Link was created in 1987 when the ex-Northern Pacific Main Line was leased from Burlington Northern due to union negotiations, and had an initial lease for 60 years, but this lease is being ended early with Bnsf ensuring full employment for all MRL employees. Furthermore, it would likely make more sense to integrate the regional into the Class 1, since their main line connects with Bnsf on both ends, with 90% of traffic on MRL being through Bnsf trains. So with that in mind, I wouldn't mind too much if MRL will be reacquired by Bnsf, although it would be sad to see this prominently EMD-based railroad go into the history books, as this mighty Montana railroad will certainly be missed by all. Thank you all for watching this month's episode of the Pensyfan Periodical. There have been a lot of rail news headlines for the month, and it will be very interesting to see what the future has in store for all of these articles. Thank you again for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Have a good day.